So we're going to do the lesson this way. I'm in Columbus today. We just finished doing the section review questions 1 through 10. Everyone got them done, except for Braden. Hopefully, Braden, you got yours done. Hopefully, you got them in. We're going to review those when I return, either on Friday or we'll do it on Monday. And then hopefully you were able to complete the concept check questions, which I will have graded soon. So what is the goal today? The goal today is to review the difference between short run and long run equilibrium. It's to identify the causes and effects of demand shocks and supply shocks, and recognize if an economy is experiencing a recessionary gap or an inflationary gap. So, as you can see here, this is the ADAS model, an abbreviation for the aggregate demand, aggregate supply model, and it's used to analyze economic functions. And here's a quick review of what causes a shift in that demand curve, aggregate demand curve. First of all, you can see the price level is always on the left-hand side. The y-axis and real GDP is in the x-axis. AD always slopes downward to the right. So what causes a shift? Expectations. First of all, expectations. So consumer expectations are low. You're going to see a shift inward to the left. If consumer expectations are high, you're going to see a shift outward to the right. Wealth. So what is typically considered wealth is the financial markets. So when the financial markets were doing really well in the 90s, as a result, you saw a shift to the right when you saw the financial markets collapse. And our latest economic collapse in 2008, you saw a shift inward to the left. And unfortunately, a lot of Americans have most of their wealth tied into their own homes, their greatest asset beyond themselves. So it's their greatest physical asset. And so you saw a big shift inward to the left. Existing stock of capital. And then, of course, fiscal policy. So what that means is when taxes are raised, people have less money in their pocket. So you'll see a shift inward to the left. When taxes are increased, or I'm sorry, when taxes are decreased, you'll see a shift right, because people have more money in their pocket, theoretically. So again, these are how the demand curve shifts. And finally, monetary policy. When the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates, it's cheaper for us to borrow money, and as a result, we're more likely to go spend money to buy a new car, to buy a new house, to borrow money to go to college. So you'll see a shift right. When interest rates rise, it's more expensive to borrow money, so as a result, less people buy cars, less people will borrow money to buy homes, less people will go to college, etc. So what causes a shift to short run aggregate supply? So again, short run, it runs diagonally. Long run is vertically, runs straight up and down. Commodity prices. First of all, commodity prices would be, an example would be corn or oil. What is it that goes into the cost of making something? Nominal wages, and then productivity. So let's say, for example, the price of oil goes through the roof. Obviously, as you know, the price of oil is going to impact most of the things that we consume, whether it's because of shipping or whether it's because oil is actually something that goes into manufacturing the product. You're going to see a shift inward to the left. When nominal wages go up, as a result, price level increases because we have to pay people more, and there's a shift to the left. There's a contractionary result in the GDP. The GDP declines, goes down. And then productivity. When productivity improves, you see a shift rightward. And when productivity goes down, you see a shift leftward. So what could cause productivity to go up? It could be because you get workers to work more hours for less money, or workers to work more hours for the same money. Or you could have workers replaced by machines. What could have productivity go down? It would be because of negotiations. Workers are maybe working less hours for more pay, or less hours for the same pay, so there's less productivity. Typically coming out of a recessionary gap, This is the last thing that improves because, as you can recall, wages are sticky. And so that's how it's expressed, P and Y. Remember that in the AP exam, it's important to graph everything and label everything correctly. Short run equilibrium is expressed here. Price level, obviously expressed here. Aggregate output expressed here. So what causes shifts of aggregate demand, short-run effects? What could be a demand shock? The first to begin is a negative demand shock. A negative demand shock could be, let's say, for example, the stock market collapses. Or let's say, for example, that taxes go up tremendously all at the same time. You're going to see, as a result, a contractionary effect on real GDP. You're going to see AD shift inward. That would be a negative shock. So again, back to what causes a shift in aggregate demand. It's expectations, wealth, existing stock of capital, physical policy, and monetary policy. Another would be, which we're probably going to see, if the Federal Reserve has to raise interest rates to fight off hyperinflation or inflation that's beginning to get out of control. You're going to see a negative demand shock. A positive demand shock would be if fiscally, if we lower taxes or if we cut interest rates, which unfortunately right now there are two things we probably can't do any more of. We can't cut taxes anymore. We're already running massive deficits. We can't cut rates anymore. We're essentially giving money away. What is it that can cause a positive demand shock? Hopefully it will be the wealth effect. Hopefully we will see massive returns in financial markets, consumer expectations when the markets turn around, and the housing market particularly turns around. People feel better when they see their homes are selling for more because that's their greatest asset. So subsequently people will start spending more. So again, what causes a shift in the short-run aggregate supply? Commodity prices, nominal wages, and productivity. Yeah, well, there's stagflation. That's nasty. That's what we saw in that's what Japan saw, particularly in the 1990s, where you saw prices go up, but you saw GDP contract, and that's not good. Unfortunately, we are very fearful of that happening right now. It has not happened to this point, and hopefully it does not happen, but that is what stagflation looks like. What can lead to stagflation? It could be really high, a shock in really high oil prices, commodity prices, nominal wages, productivity. And there's a positive supply shock. Let's say a great example would be we come up with some sort of alternative energy source that is much better than oil and affordable for everybody. So right now there's these wonderful cars out there that run on electricity or whatever, alternative energy cars, and they are unaffordable for most, and they don't make economic sense yet. But someday they will, and when they do, you're going to see a shock that looks like this. You're going to see price levels go down, and you're going to see a shift rightward, and GDP is going to greatly improve. You're going to see lots of different kinds of cars. These different cars hit the market. Long run, again, always runs straight up and down vertically, and if you recall, that should always be shifting a little bit to the right, just a little bit to the right, slowly over time. So when you're looking at the different theories, classical economists would say hands off, we're let the market self-correct. When there's a recessionary gap, which is expressed right now in what you're looking at, They would say that the best way for a market to be able to correct itself is for us to pick our winners and losers. And typically this takes a little bit longer, so it depends on what you believe is most appropriate. A Keynesian economist would say, in the end we're all dead, so what can we do fiscally or monetarily to solve the problem now? And so in a recessionary gap, it would be, what could it be? Lowering interest rates? Could it be cutting taxes? So the expression you're seeing in this PowerPoint now is what's referred to as a recessionary gap. And ultimately what happens is there's a correction. So you see a shift backward or rightward in SRAS 1. And here we have an inflationary gap. So we see a shift rightward. It could be because of, who knows, the stock market booms. So then there's all this consumer wealth. So things are going really well, but ultimately over time you're going to see a shift back to normal price levels or normal output levels, I should say. And so you're going to see things return. So as you can see, there's a shift back in SARS. So what we're going to do now is you're going to move forward with the assessment in the student handout. You're going to identify whether the type of shock, the type of shock for each scenario below, and then ultimately you're going to peer review them. So Iran stops selling oil, unemployment skyrockets, assembly line invented, and the stock market booms and housing market prices soar. The homework is going to be to read Module 20 and answer tackle the test, questions 1 through 5.